Welcome to Monk's Temple. Settle into your space, wherever you find comfort in this moment. Let your attention soften and turn gently inward. This isn't about learning more, but about remembering something your bones have always known, a different truth about time, change, and the face that meets yours in the mirror. For the next while, we'll explore a perspective drawn not from a culture that fears aging, but from a 2,500-year-old stream of wisdom known as Buddhism. If this path of exploration speaks to you, consider subscribing to Monk's Temple to support our shared journeys. Now, let your breath become your anchor. Our exploration begins not with an image, but with a feeling. Become aware of the subtle hum beneath everything, the quiet pulse of change. Your heartbeat. The flow of breath. The dance of thoughts across your mind. This is the Buddha's foundational teaching of anicca, impermanence. Nothing is static. Everything arises, shifts, and passes. We know this when we see leaves fall or seasons turn. Yet when this universal law touches our own skin, our own energy, we often meet it as an enemy. We see a line and think, loss. We feel a new stiffness and think, decline. But what if we are reading the map incorrectly? What if these changes are not the erosion of who you are, but the gradual, beautiful revelation of a life fully lived? I want to tell you about an ancient forest. Walking among trees that were centuries old, I saw thick, gnarled bark with deep, twisting grooves. To my eye, they looked like scars from a hard life. A forester with me placed a hand on one trunk. "These aren't wounds," he said softly. "They're records. This groove tells of a 3-year drought centuries ago. The tree grew slower, tighter, wiser. This swirl here is where it grew around a fallen neighbor, making space instead of fighting. This is its story. A young, straight sapling is flexible but has no narrative. This tree's narrative is its strength." In that moment, I understood something about our own changing forms. We look at our lines and textures and see only departure from a smooth past. We see the drought, but not the resilience it forged. We see adaptation and call it damage. The Buddha taught right view, seeing things as they are, not through the filters of our desires or fears. Right view of aging asks, what if your changing body is not a document of decay, but a living archive of wisdom? A testament, not a testimony against you. To see this way requires a gentle pivot in attention. It asks us to exchange the critic's magnifying glass for the witness's lantern. Let's practice this now, through the simple Buddhist foundation of mindfulness. Don't look. Just feel. Feel the sensations where your body meets the chair or floor. The pressure, the warmth, the subtle textures of contact. For a moment, don't label anything good or bad. Don't tell a story. Just be the aware space in which these sensations arise and fall. This is the first step, befriending the living reality you inhabit, before judging its reflection. This practice leads to another core Buddhist insight, anatta, or non-self. This doesn't mean you don't exist. It means you are not a fixed, solitary statue. You are a flowing, dynamic process, physical, mental, emotional. The you of decades past was made of different cells and thoughts. The you of tomorrow will be different still. Our suffering arises when we cling to one snapshot in this river of change, the snapshot of youth, of peak capability, and cry, "This is me. This must stay forever." It's like clutching a handful of river water and declaring you now possess the river itself. The river's nature is to flow. Your nature is to experience, learn, and change. The ache of aging often isn't the change itself, but our tight, desperate grip on what is naturally and beautifully slipping by. To release that grip is not to lose yourself, but to find yourself in the flow of life itself. This release from clinging opens the door to a profound discovery, that within what we often call limitation lies a different kind of freedom. We are taught to see life as a climb, ascending toward peaks of achievement, vitality, and recognition. Aging, then, looks like the slow walk back down the other side. But the Buddha's wisdom reveals a different topography altogether. Life is not a single mountain with one summit. It is a vast and varied landscape. The first half of the journey may involve scaling impressive, visible peaks. The second half invites you into the deep, fertile valleys, the hidden groves, the quiet meadows where the view is not of the distant horizon, but of the intricate, beautiful details right at your feet. This is not descent. This is exploration of a different, richer dimension. Consider a woman named Mara, a once celebrated dancer. Her entire identity was woven through movement, leaping, spinning, expressing stories without words. When chronic pain in her knees eventually made her professional career impossible, she felt she had lost her language, her very self. For years, she grieved, a stranger in her own body. At a friend's suggestion, she began volunteering at a school for deaf children. She initially felt useless, her tool of movement seemingly irrelevant. Then one day, a young girl, frustrated at being unable to communicate a complex feeling, began to move her hands in a frantic, angry pattern. Mara, from a lifetime of translating emotion into motion, instinctively mirrored the girl's gestures, slowing them down, giving them shape and grace. She wasn't using formal sign language, she was using the language of compassionate attention. The girl watched, transfixed, then repeated the slower, clearer gestures. A connection was forged not in spite of Mara's lost career, but because of the deep listening her years of discipline had honed. She began developing a program of movement empathy, helping children articulate emotion through gesture. She never danced on stage again. But she discovered that her true art was not performance for an audience, it was the intimate, sacred act of helping another soul find its physical voice. Her limitation became her gateway to a deeper, more relational purpose. She moved from the spotlight to the sanctuary. This is the Buddhist principle of upaya, skillful means. It is the wisdom of using the tools and circumstances at hand, even if they are not the ones you originally wanted, to alleviate suffering and create connection. Your changing capacities are not a reduction of your tools, they are an invitation to discover more skillful, more profound ways to use them. This shift requires us to dismantle a deep-seated cultural equation, that our worth is equal to our productivity. We are human beings, but we often live as human doings, measuring our value by our output, our speed, our visible accomplishments. As our energy naturally recalibrates, this equation begins to fail, leading to a crisis of meaning. Buddhism invites you to solve this crisis not by trying to maintain the old output, but by changing the entire formula. Your worth is not in what you do. It is in the quality of awareness you bring to your being. The conscious presence you are. This is not a passive state. It is the most active, creative state there is, it is the source from which all skillful action springs. I think of a retired architect named Samuel. For 40 years, his worth was in his designs, his buildings that shaped city skylines. Retirement left him feeling like an empty blueprint. One afternoon, watching his young grandson struggle to build a complex castle from simple wooden blocks, he sat down on the floor. He didn't take over. He didn't instruct. He simply began placing a few blocks nearby, not in a design, but with a quiet, attentive presence. He created a field of possibility. The grandson, noticing, began to incorporate his grandfather's blocks, and the castle evolved in unexpected, collaborative ways. In that moment, Samuel realized his most valuable architecture was no longer made of steel and glass. It was built from the space of patient, supportive attention he could hold for another person's creativity. His new work was to be a calm, open space where others could discover their own design. He transitioned from building structures to holding space, a far more essential and enduring contribution. The Buddha taught about the illusion of the doer. We are not isolated actors creating value from nothing. We are participants in an interdependent web. Our most profound impact often comes not from what we forcefully build alone, but from the quality of presence we contribute to the shared space around us. This is the economy of presence, and it appreciates with age. To live in this economy, we must make peace with the master teacher our culture most avoids, mortality. In Buddhism, Maranasati, mindfulness of death, is not a morbid practice. It is the ultimate tool for vibrant living. It is the lens that brings everything into sharp, precious focus. Imagine holding a glass of the most exquisite water. If you believe the supply is endless, you may drink without tasting, spill carelessly. But if you know this is the only glass you will ever have, you hold it differently. You savor each sip. You appreciate the vessel itself. Awareness of life's finitude performs this same alchemy on every ordinary moment. It is not about thinking of death constantly. It is about letting the truth of impermanence infuse your life with urgency, gratitude, and depth. There was a teacher named Eleanor who practiced this beautifully. After a health scare, she began a simple ritual. Each morning, she would step outside, regardless of weather, and say to herself, "I am here. This day is a gift I did not manufacture and cannot guarantee tomorrow." This wasn't a fearful thought. It was a grounding, electrifying one. It meant the coffee tasted richer because she chose to really taste it. It meant listening to her students not as a duty, but as a privilege, hearing the unique timbre of each young voice as a temporary, irreplaceable music. She didn't accomplish more in her final years. She experienced more. She dissolved the boundary between mundane and sacred by bringing her full, mortal attention to everything. The Buddha said that of all meditations, mindfulness of death is supreme because it cuts through all triviality. It helps you distinguish between what is truly essential, love, presence, integrity, and what is merely noise. Aging, when walked with this awareness, becomes a continuous refinement of your priorities, a shedding of the unimportant, a journey toward essential light. This clarity about what matters naturally reframes our relationships. We often hold our connections like fragile, finished sculptures, beautiful, static, and frozen in a moment we deem perfect. We fear any change will be a crack, a flaw. But people are not sculptures. They are rivers, and rivers flow. They change course, run fast and slow, merge with other waters, and carve new paths through the landscape of time. The Buddhist teaching of non-attachment in relationships is the wisdom of loving the river for its flowing nature, not for one particular bend you wish it would stay in forever. I recall two sisters, Clara and Jean. In their youth, Clara was the vibrant, outgoing star, and Jean was the quiet, steady support. This dynamic defined them for decades. Clara told the stories, Jean remembered the details. Clara made plans, Jean made them happen. In their 60s, Jean, after a period of profound inner work, began to blossom with a quiet, confident voice of her own. She started writing, sharing her own insightful perspectives. Clara, instead of being thrilled for her sister, felt strangely threatened and abandoned. "You're different," she'd accuse. "You're not my Jean anymore." Their relationship grew strained. The tension broke during a walk in a familiar park. Jean stopped and said, gently, "Clara, I loved being your support. That love hasn't changed. But that role was a season for me. A long season. Now a different part of me is coming into bloom. This doesn't mean I love you less. It means my love has more to offer you, not just my support, but my authentic voice. Can you meet this version of me?" Clara, in tears, realized she had been clinging to a snapshot. She had loved a role, not the whole, flowing person. She had been afraid that if Jean changed, the entire structure of their relationship, and thus her own identity as the star, would collapse. When she released her grip on the old dynamic, she discovered something more stable beneath it, a bond that could now hold two whole, evolving women. Their connection didn't break, it deepened, becoming more honest and resilient. This is the application of anatta, non-self, to love. When we stop clinging to fixed roles, for ourselves and others, love is freed from the prison of expectation and can expand into its boundless, adaptable nature. This fluid understanding helps us navigate the poignant sense of a shrinking social world. Friends move, pass away, connections evolve. It feels like a net being pulled in, leaving us with fewer threads. But Buddhism teaches pratyaya samutpada, interdependent origination. Nothing exists in isolation. Every cause creates an effect, and every effect becomes a new cause. Think of your life not as a net that shrinks, but as a stone cast into a pond long ago. The initial splash of a close relationship has settled. But the ripples it created are still moving outward in ever-widening, invisible circles. The love you shared, the patience you modeled, the forgiveness you offered, these are not gone. They became part of that person's being, and now influence how they touch others, who then touch others still. Your kindness to a colleague 20 years ago may have softened their heart during a difficult moment with their child, who then grew up to be a compassionate nurse. That ripple of your kindness is still moving through the world. Your network of influence isn't shrinking, it's becoming more woven into the fabric of everything, less concentrated but more diffuse and powerful. You are always connected, always leaving a legacy of influence. The question is not if, but what kind. This brings us to a beautiful practice, redefining beauty itself. We are sold a myth of beauty as resistance, resistance to gravity, to time, to expression. Smoothness is king. But what is more compelling, a perfectly smooth, machine-polished stone, or a geode? From the outside, a geode is rough, lumpy, unremarkable, bearing all the marks of its turbulent formation. But when opened, it reveals a hidden cathedral of crystals, a complex, glittering universe formed under pressure over eons. The external roughness is not a flaw, it is the necessary condition for the inner majesty. Your face, your body, are your geode. The external markings, the lines, the textures, are the honest record of the pressures, joys, and weathering of your journey. They are the proof of the inner cathedral being built, a crystalline structure of wisdom, memory, and depth that no smooth surface could ever contain. The Japanese aesthetic of wabi-sabi, deeply influenced by Zen Buddhism, finds profound beauty in the weathered, the irregular, the imperfect. A misshapen tea bowl, darkened by use, is more treasured than a flawless, unused one. Your lived-in face, marked by experience, carries the same authentic beauty. It tells a truth that a face frozen in time cannot. I knew a woodworker named Ben. He only used reclaimed barn wood, grayed and roughened by decades of sun and wind. People would ask why he didn't use fresh, clean lumber. He'd run his hand over the surface and say, "This wood has a story. The knots are where branches reached for light. The variations in grain are records of good years and lean years. The gray isn't dirt, it's a patina of sun and rain, a collaboration with time. When I sand it, I don't sand this history away. I just smooth it enough to feel it. The beauty is in the history." He saw his own aging hands, stained and lined, in the same light. They were his reclaimed wood, tools shaped by use, bearing the honest patina of their service. This is right view. Beauty is not the absence of history, but the graceful integration of it. This integration of our history, this seeing of the geodes crystals in the rough stone, requires a fundamental shift from being at war with our experience to being in dialogue with it. Much of our suffering around aging stems from a silent, internal monologue of criticism and resistance directed at our own physical being. We treat our body as a faulty machine that is betraying its warranty. Buddhism offers a radical alternative. What if we approached our body not as a possession that is failing us, but as a wise, lifelong companion that is communicating with us? This is the practice of mindful embodiment, one of the 4 foundations of mindfulness the Buddha taught. Imagine if your body could speak. After years of being ignored, overridden, or criticized, what might it say? "Thank you for listening," it might begin. "For so long, you heard my signals, the fatigue, the tension, the gentle aches, as interruptions to your plans. You pushed through with caffeine, willpower, and distraction. You called that strength. I called it being unheard. Now, when I speak more clearly with a deeper ache or a need for rest, you hear it as a scold, a sign of failure. But I am not scolding you. I am educating you. This ache in the knee is not an error message. It is a lesson in biomechanics, asking you to move with more mindfulness, to respect your alignment. This need for more sleep is not laziness. It is an invitation into the profound creativity of deep rest, where the mind integrates and heals. I am not breaking down. I am streamlining. I am teaching you economy of motion, precision of effort. I am guiding you from the wasteful expenditure of youth. Like a powerful engine running at full throttle whether it's needed or not, toward the elegant efficiency of maturity, where every movement has purpose and no energy is wasted. This is not a fantasy. It is the essence of the Buddhist practice of kayanupassana, mindfulness of the body. It is developing a relationship of respect, curiosity, and gratitude with this faithful vehicle of consciousness. Every change, every new sensation, becomes an object of meditation, not an occasion for panic. A tight shoulder becomes a chance to explore the landscape of tension and release. A slower pace becomes an opportunity to truly see the world you're moving through. Your body becomes your most immediate, honest teacher on impermanence and interdependence. Consider Arthur, a former military officer used to a life of command and physical precision. Retirement and age brought a tremor to his hands and a stiffness to his gait. He fought it with rigorous, angry exercise, seeing each limitation as an enemy to be conquered. It left him exhausted and depressed. His daughter, a yoga therapist, visited and instead of suggesting exercises, asked him to simply lie on the floor and notice his breath. Then she placed a small, smooth stone on his sternum. "Just feel the weight of it," she said. "Notice how your breath makes it rise and fall." For the first time in years, Arthur stopped fighting his body. He simply felt it. He felt the stone's gentle pressure, the rhythm of his breath beneath it. He noticed that the tremor in his hands was absent when he was this still and attentive. In that moment of truce, he realized his body wasn't his adversary, it was a complex, sensitive system asking for his conscious partnership, not his harsh command. He began a practice of Tai Chi, where slowness and precision were the goals, not speed and force. His tremor didn't disappear, but it became integrated into a flowing movement. He discovered a grace and a calm he never had as a young, forceful soldier. He traded the stance of a general for the posture of a partner. His body's limitations had initiated him into a deeper, more peaceful form of strength. This partnership extends to our emotional world as well. With age comes emotional sediment. Experiences layer upon each other. A current frustration might resonate with a layer of powerlessness from childhood. A moment of joy might connect to a tapestry of past loves and losses. We often react to the surface emotion with the amplified charge of all the layers beneath it. Conscious aging involves the gentle, compassionate archaeology of the soul. It is sitting with an emotion and asking, how old is this feeling? What deeper layer is this touching? This isn't dwelling in the past. It is freeing the present from the unconscious burdens of the past. It is untangling the knots so you can respond to what is actually happening now, not to the ghost of what happened then. There was a woman named Gloria, known for her sharp, sudden anger at small incompetences, a late delivery, a clumsy waiter. In a meditation group, during a practice of loving kindness directed at herself, she was overwhelmed by a memory of her immigrant father, a tailor, being publicly humiliated by a wealthy customer for a tiny, perceived flaw in a suit. She felt his shame, his powerlessness, his volcanic anger swallowed whole to keep his job. Gloria's entire life, she realized, had been subconsciously vowed to never be in that position of helplessness. Her anger was a preemptive strike against any hint of humiliation. Seeing this sediment, this inherited layer, didn't excuse her behavior, but it explained it with compassion. The next time she felt that familiar spike of anger rise at a minor mistake, she paused. She felt the old, ghostly shame beneath it. She breathed, and whispered internally to that ghost, to her father, "It's okay. We are safe now." The anger dissipated like mist. She was able to address the situation with calm clarity. She had used the light of present moment awareness to heal an old, buried wound. This is the alchemy of mindful aging, using the increased interior space and reflection time to integrate your history, not be ruled by it. As we learn to partner with our physical and emotional landscapes, we naturally arrive at one of the most liberating insights on this path, the discovery of effortless effort. In our youth-driven culture, effort is often synonymous with force. The hard push, the grind, the sheer willpower that muscles through resistance. Aging seems to rob us of this fuel. But what if this is not a depletion, but an invitation to graduate to a more sophisticated, elegant form of power? Buddhism calls this Wu Wei, often translated as non-action or effortless action. It is the principle of the bamboo that bends in the storm instead of the oak that resists and breaks. It is the skill of the sailor who trims the sails to harness the wind's power, rather than rowing furiously against it. Think of the energy of youth as a broad, fast, shallow river. It has tremendous visible force, rushing noisily over rocks, carving paths with its sheer volume and speed. But it is also turbulent, scattered, and often wasteful, expending energy in spray and sound. The energy of later years is like a deep, slow-moving river. Its surface is calm. Its current is powerful but silent, moving with immense gravity and direction. Every molecule of water is purposeful, carrying tremendous weight and influence with minimal friction. It has learned the most efficient path. This is not a loss of power. It is a concentration of power. It is power that has become wisdom. I once met a master piano tuner, Mr. Ellis, who was well into his 80s. His hands were gnarled with arthritis. He could no longer play the virtuosic pieces he once performed. Young technicians would arrive with digital tuners, attaching sensors and making precise, mechanical adjustments with swift, confident motions. Mr. Ellis's process looked painstakingly slow by comparison. He would simply sit at the piano, play a single note, and close his eyes. He would listen not just to the pitch, but to the afterlife of the note, its decay, its harmonics, how it resonated in the body of the instrument. He might listen to one note for a full minute. Then, with a barely perceptible turn of a tuning hammer, a movement that came from his wrist and elbow in a smooth, integrated motion, not from the force of his fingers, he would make an adjustment. He would repeat this for hours. The result was not just a technically tuned piano. Musicians said his pianos sang, they breathed, they felt alive under the fingers. He wasn't forcing the piano into a theoretical standard. He was listening for the instrument's own inherent voice and helping it find its clearest, most resonant expression. The young technicians had strength and speed. Mr. Ellis had perception and partnership. He accomplished more profound results with what appeared to be less effort, because his effort was perfectly aligned with the nature of the piano and the laws of sound. His physical limitations had stripped away the possibility of brute force, forcing him to develop the superior skill of deep listening and precise, minimal intervention. This is Wu Wei in action. This principle transforms how we approach our daily lives. That task that once took sheer stamina may now require a moment of strategic planning or a request for help. A difficult conversation may no longer benefit from forceful debate, but from the power of a well-timed, empathetic silence. You are learning to solve problems not with the hammer of your will, but with the scalpel of your discernment. The Buddha's middle way is this path of harmony, avoiding the extremes of harsh, wasteful striving and passive lethargy. Aging naturally guides you to this middle path, where action arises from clear seeing and compassionate intelligence, not from ego or anxiety. This effortless effort blossoms into what we might call generative stillness. Our culture views stillness as emptiness, a pause between productive actions. In the Buddhist view, stillness is the fertile ground from which all wise action grows. It is not passive. It is profoundly creative. It is the space where integration happens, where insight arises, where the sediment of experience settles into wisdom. As the capacity for external activity naturally modulates, the opportunity for this generative stillness expands. Consider a woman named Anya, a former high-stakes negotiator. She used to prepare for deals by amassing data, scripting arguments, building walls of logic. In her later career, she found this approach left her exhausted and often created adversarial stalemates. She began a practice of sitting in silence for 20 minutes before any meeting. She didn't review her notes. She simply let her mind settle. In that stillness, she often found that the most important thing wasn't another argument, but a single, perceptive question she hadn't considered, or an intuitive sense of the other party's unspoken fear. She began entering negotiations not with a fortress of points, but with a calm, open presence and that one question. The dynamics shifted dramatically. Conversations became collaborations. Deals were made with less friction and more mutual benefit. Anya realized her greatest tool was no longer her analytical mind in overdrive, but the clarity that emerged when that mind was allowed to be still. She had accessed the generative power of silence. Her value was no longer in her forceful doing, but in her perceptive being. This is the fruition of practice, when your presence itself becomes your most powerful contribution. This journey, from force to flow, from noise to stillness, from doing to being, prepares us for the ultimate integration. A daily life lived in conscious harmony with these truths. It's about crafting a personal culture that honors the rhythm of your being. It doesn't require moving to a monastery. It happens in the architecture of your ordinary day. This harmonious daily rhythm finds its anchor in what we could call the bookends of awareness, the conscious way we begin and end each day. These are not complicated rituals, but simple mental gestures that reorient our relationship with time itself. They are based on the Buddhist understanding that intention is the forerunner of all states. How we set the tone upon waking and how we settle the mind before sleeping creates the karmic momentum for everything in between. Let's start with the dawn. The first moments of consciousness are a sacred threshold. Most of us cross it blindly, reaching immediately for the noise of the world, the phone, the news, the mental checklist. This immediately throws us into the stream of doing and reacting. The alternative is to pause on that threshold and practice what I call the three intentions. First, the intention of presence. Before you even open your eyes, feel the miracle that awareness has returned to your body. You have been gifted another day of experiencing. For 3 breaths, do nothing but appreciate this raw fact of being alive. You are not your to-do list yet. You are pure consciousness, temporarily housed in this aging, faithful form. Second, the intention of impermanence. Softly remind yourself, this day, in all its particular beauty and challenge, will never come again. This person you will see today, this sky, this combination of light and shadow, it is a unique, non-refundable gift. This recognition isn't morbid, it's focusing. It infuses the ordinary with sacredness. It turns automatic pilot into mindful participation. Third, the intention of connection. Feel that you are not a solitary island waking up. Your breath is exchanged with the atmosphere cultivated by countless trees. The blood in your veins is sustained by food grown by unseen hands. The thoughts in your mind are shaped by teachers, authors, and loved ones, living and departed. You are a node in a vast, living network. You wake up supported. This dispels the loneliness that can accompany aging and grounds you in belonging. These 3 intentions take less than a minute. But they plant seeds that grow throughout the day, guiding you toward presence, appreciation, and compassion. The mirror of this practice comes as the day closes. If we begin with intention, we must end with integration. Otherwise, we carry the undigested fragments of the day, its regrets, irritations, and anxieties, into our sleep, where they churn unconsciously. The evening practice is one of gentle completion. We can think of it as the 3 releasings. First, release with gratitude. Before you critique the day, inventory its gifts. Not just the obvious ones. Find 3 things you received. The warmth of the sun through a window. A stranger's smile. The successful completion of a small, unnoticed task. The taste of water. This practice trains the mind to see abundance, not lack. It confirms that even the most difficult day offers sustenance. Second, release with learning. Ask gently, what did today teach me? Not, how did I fail, but, what did I discover? Perhaps you learned that a certain time of day is now your energy peak. Perhaps you noticed how a particular worry never materialized. Perhaps you saw your own patience wear thin and now understand a new trigger. See the day as your teacher, not your judge. Extract one lesson, however small. Third, release into trust. Consciously let go of the day's unresolved business. The unfinished project, the awkward conversation, the worry about tomorrow. Place it all in the hands of life itself, or your understanding of the universe. Say to yourself, my part for today is done. This is an act of faith. It allows your nervous system to truly rest, to enter sleep not as a continuation of the day's battles, but as a return to the source for renewal. This simple framework, 3 intentions at dawn, 3 releasings at dusk, creates a container of mindfulness. It turns the passage of days from a countdown into a cultivation. Each day becomes a conscious cycle of receiving and releasing, of learning and letting go. You are no longer just aging, you are curating your experience of time. I knew a man named Robert who felt besieged by time after retirement. His days blurred into a vague anxiety. He began this practice, reluctantly at first. After a few weeks, he told me something had shifted. I used to go to bed feeling like I'd lost another day, he said. Now, when I do my little releasings, I often realize, oh, today I learned how to fix that leaky faucet myself, or, today I finally had that talk with my son. I end the day feeling like I gained something, even if it was just a bit of peace. The days don't feel like they're slipping away anymore. They feel like they're accumulating, inside me. Robert had stopped measuring his days by external productivity and started valuing them by internal integration. He was building a treasury of mindful days. This daily rhythm creates the conditions for the greatest gift of conscious aging, the ability to become a source of peace for others. Your inner stability, born from this non-war with reality, begins to radiate outward. It creates what Buddhists call parasamgate, going beyond, for the benefit of all. Your calm presence in a frantic room, your non-reactive listening to a worried friend, your gentle humor in the face of a minor crisis. These are not small things. They are powerful transmissions of the wisdom you've integrated. You become a living sanctuary. In a world addicted to speed and fear, your paced, accepting presence is a revolutionary act. It teaches by example that there is another way to be. This radiance of integrated wisdom brings us to a profound understanding of legacy. We often think of legacy as something built at the end, a named building, a published memoir, a financial inheritance. It is monumental, tangible, and tied to our ego. But the Buddhist view, rooted in the laws of karma and interdependence, reveals a more fluid, powerful, and humble truth. You are creating your legacy every single moment. Your legacy is the sum total of the energetic quality you bring to your interactions. It is the imprint of your consciousness on the fabric of the world. Every act of patience, every moment of true listening, every choice for kindness over being right, every instance where you met your own aging with grace instead of bitterness, these are not private events. They are seeds planted in the field of reality. They will grow in ways you may never see, influencing people you will never meet. Think of it as spiritual acoustics. You live your life in a great hall. Every word, thought, and action is a sound you make. Long after the initial sound wave from your voice has faded to silence, its echo continues. It bounces off the surfaces of other lives, subtly changing their shape, influencing the sounds they then make. Your echo mingles with the echoes of countless others in a beautiful, complex symphony of cause and effect. Your true legacy is not the single shout of your greatest achievement, but the quality of the echo you leave in the world. The tone of compassion, the resonance of integrity, the harmonic of peace. I remember a school crossing guard named Mrs. Reed. For 30 years, she stood at the same intersection. She knew every child's name. She celebrated their lost teeth, asked about their sick pets, and had a special, silly handshake for each one. She was not a CEO, an artist, or a public figure. She never wrote a book. To the world's measure, she left no legacy. But at her funeral, the church overflowed. Grown men and women, now lawyers, nurses, mechanics, parents, stood up to speak. One said, "Mrs. Reed was the first adult who ever made me feel like my day mattered. That handshake made me walk taller." Another said, "She taught me that consistency is a form of love." A parent said, "On my worst days, seeing her cheerful, unwavering presence made me believe in goodness again." Mrs. Reed's legacy was not in things. It was in the invisible architecture of confidence, safety, and seen-ness she built in thousands of young hearts. Her work was presence. Her product was a subtle, powerful shaping of character. She understood, instinctively, that her role was to be a steady, kind landmark in the swirling chaos of growing up. This is a Buddha-like legacy, the profound impact of unwavering, compassionate presence. This reframes the anxiety of running out of time. If your legacy is built moment by moment in the quality of your attention, then you are building it right now. You are never behind. The most important contribution of your life may be the kind word you offer to a grocery clerk tomorrow, the patience you show your own confused mind this evening, or the forgiveness you grant an old regret today. These are the golden threads you weave into the collective tapestry. Aging, with its slower pace and deeper perspective, actually makes you a better weaver. You have more discernment about which threads matter, the strong, quiet threads of love, not the brittle, flashy threads of vanity or resentment. This leads to the ultimate integration, seeing your entire life as a single, beautiful gesture. From the frantic, blooming energy of youth to the deep, slow power of age, it is all one motion. Like a master calligrapher's brushstroke. Beginning with a decisive, bold press of ink, traveling with varying speed and pressure, and finishing with a graceful, deliberate taper to a point. The ending taper is not an afterthought, it is an essential part of the character's beauty and meaning. It provides closure, elegance, and intention. To fear the taper is to misunderstand the art. Your later years are that graceful, completing taper. They give meaning and shape to the entire stroke of your life. They are where the wisdom gathered along the journey is distilled into its purest expression. There was a renowned surgeon, Dr. Evans, who had performed thousands of high-stakes operations. In his 70s, a minor tremor ended his surgical career. His colleagues expected him to retreat into bitter irrelevance. Instead, he did something that confused them. He began volunteering in the hospital's recovery room, not as a doctor, but as a calm companion. He would sit with patients emerging from anesthesia, often confused and frightened. He wouldn't offer medical advice. He would simply hold a hand, speak in a low, steady voice, and say things like, "The hard part is over. You're safe now. Just breathe." Nurses noticed a measurable difference. Patients he sat with had lower blood pressure spikes and reported less traumatic recall. Dr. Evans had moved from fixing broken bodies with technical skill to healing human terror with compassionate presence. He was completing the brushstroke. The bold, precise press of his surgical career was being finished with the gentle, connecting taper of solace. Both were essential. The second gave the first its deepest human meaning. This is the promise of conscious aging. You are not approaching an end. You are approaching the most meaningful part of the stroke, the part that makes sense of all that came before. You are integrating your experiences into a cohesive whole. You are moving from fragmentation to unity. The Buddha's path leads to nirvana, not a heaven elsewhere, but the extinguishing of the fires of craving, aversion, and delusion right here. Aging, met with this awareness, becomes a natural ally on this path. Each letting go, each acceptance, each moment of mindful presence is a cooling of those fires. You are not burning out, you are becoming luminous with a cooler, clearer, more enduring light. So as we near the completion of our exploration, let this understanding settle not as a concept, but as a felt sense in your being. A relaxation. A deep, trusting exhale. You are not preparing for an ending. You are preparing for the most profound integration of your life, the point where all your experiences, all your learning, all your loves and losses, synthesize into a quality of being that can only be described as wisdom. This isn't an abstract concept. It is a tangible presence, a way of moving through the world that affects everything and everyone you touch. Consider the final metamorphosis of a caterpillar. Inside the chrysalis, it doesn't merely grow wings. Its entire biological structure dissolves into a nutrient-rich soup, a complete breakdown of its former self. From this essence, entirely new structures form, wings, antennae, a different kind of eyesight. The caterpillar didn't know it could fly. It only knew how to crawl. The dissolution wasn't death, it was the necessary condition for a capability it could not have previously imagined. Your later years can be viewed through this lens. The structures of your former life, the career identity, the parenting role, the societal mask of perpetual productivity, may naturally dissolve or soften. This can feel terrifying, like losing yourself. But what if this softening is the chrysalis stage? What if what's being prepared is not a diminished version of you, but an entirely new way of being, one with wings of perspective you couldn't have used before? This flight is what the world needs from its elders. Not a repetition of youthful energy, but a different energy altogether, the energy of integrated perspective. In a room of people arguing about the shape of a leaf, the elder is the one who can gently point out they're all standing under the same tree. You've seen enough cycles to recognize patterns. You've held enough contradictions within yourself to offer non-judgmental space to others. Your value shifts from what you produce to the context you provide. I remember meeting a man named Silas at a community mediation center. He was in his late 70s, a former labor organizer who had been in countless fierce negotiations. He now volunteered to sit with families in conflict over inheritances. He told me, "When I was young, I fought to win points. Now, I listen for the hurt beneath the position. I don't even offer solutions anymore. I just reflect back what I hear. It sounds like you're afraid of being forgotten," or, "It seems like this China set isn't about the China, it's about missing your mother." Almost every time, when people feel truly heard, the solution emerges from them. My job is just to hold the space calm enough for them to hear themselves. Silas wasn't doing less. He was being something more essential, a human mirror, a calm center in an emotional storm. His power was no longer in his rhetoric, but in his receptive, unwavering presence. This is the flight of the butterfly, a capability forged in the dissolution of an old form. This understanding allows us to reframe every limitation as an invitation into a new kind of freedom. The body that needs more rest invites you into the creative, restorative sanctuary of stillness. The mind that processes a bit slower invites you into deeper contemplation, where answers arise not from speed, but from depth. The social circle that changes invites you into more authentic, less performative connections. What looks like closing doors is often the opening of windows into a richer, more interior landscape. So we arrive at a practice, not for fixing aging, but for befriending it as your teacher. It's called the daily pause. It requires only minutes, but it reorients your entire relationship with time. The morning pause, upon waking, before you reach for a device, practice the 3 gifts. 1. The gift of awareness. Feel, I am here. Consciousness has returned. This is the primary miracle. 2. The gift of this day. Acknowledge, this combination of light, air, and opportunity is unique. It will never be assembled exactly this way again. 3. The gift of support. Remember, I am held. By the bed, the air, the earth, the web of life that sustained me through the night. The evening pause, before sleep, practice the 3 returns. 1. Return with gratitude. Find one small, specific thing you genuinely appreciated today. The way light fell on a wall. A moment of ease. 2. Return with learning. Ask, what did today reveal? Not judge, reveal. 3. Return to trust. Whisper, my work for today is complete. I release the unfinished into the hands of life itself. This practice builds a container of mindfulness around your days. It turns time from a thief into a gardener, tending the landscape of your soul. We have walked a long path together through these teachings. We began with the fundamental hum of change, and we end here, with the silent, spacious awareness that hears that hum. This is the circle closing, and yet, it is not an end at all. In the Buddhist view, wisdom isn't a destination you reach, it is the ground you learn to stand upon. And this ground does not age. It does not wrinkle, tire, or diminish. It is the conscious space within which the entire drama of your life, with its youthful blooms and autumn colors, unfolds. Aging, when met with the insights we've explored, becomes the very process by which you stop confusing yourself with the drama, and start recognizing yourself as the aware, boundless space holding it. This is the ultimate homecoming. It is why many wisdom traditions speak of elders as being closer to the truth, not because they are nearing death, but because they are, often through simple necessity, shedding the costumes. The costume of the fearless go-getter. The costume of the perfect parent. The costume of the person who has it all figured out. These are heavy, elaborate garments, and wearing them for decades is exhausting. As they naturally loosen and fall away, what remains is not nothing. It is the one wearing the costume. The essential you. The witness. The consciousness that was there when you took your first breath, that has watched every triumph and failure with the same silent, compassionate awareness, and that will be there for your last exhale. This being is not old. It was never young. It is timeless. And your journey of aging is, in its most beautiful interpretation, the gradual, sometimes gentle, sometimes fierce, remembering of this. So let me offer you a final blessing, woven from all we've shared. May it be a touchstone you can return to. May you look in the mirror and see not a fading portrait, but a living landscape, weather-beaten, yes, but rich with the topography of a real life, each line a contour map of love, concern, and joy. May you feel your body not as a project to be fixed, but as a faithful, weathered companion on an incredible journey, speaking to you in the honest language of sensation, asking not for criticism, but for grateful partnership. May your heart grow spacious and resilient, loving others not by clinging to who they were, but by honoring who they are becoming, finding in the flow of connection a reflection of life's own generous, changing nature. May you measure your days not in tasks crossed off, but in moments fully inhabited, discovering that your most significant contribution may be the quality of calm you bring to a frantic room, the depth of your listening, the peace of your simply being there. May the truth of life's finiteness cease to be a shadow and become instead the lens that brings every ordinary, glorious detail into a focus so sharp it takes your breath away. May what the world calls your limitations be revealed as sacred guides, leading you away from the exhausting path of force and toward the graceful, powerful path of alignment, wisdom, and effortless effort. May your past integrate within you like compost, rich, dark, and fertile, nourishing the growth of compassion and understanding in your present moments, so you may respond to life freshly, not from old, conditioned reactions. May you come to trust the natural, graceful taper of your life's unique brushstroke, knowing it completes the character with beauty and intention, giving meaning to every bold and subtle movement that came before. May you awaken each morning with a sense of gentle surprise and gratitude, as if returning from a long journey to find yourself, miraculously, still here, still capable of experiencing this mysterious, heartbreaking, beautiful world. And may you rest each night with a heart unburdened by yesterday, unanxious about tomorrow, releasing the day's stories into the vast, starlit silence, held in the knowing that you are an inseparable part of the intelligent, loving wholeness of existence itself. You are not getting older. You are coming home to yourself. The layers of who you thought you had to be are falling away, revealing the timeless, loving awareness you have always been. This is not the end of your adventure. It is the adventure becoming more real, more immediate, more sacred than ever before. Walk forward from this moment not with the fear of time running out, but with the quiet courage of someone who has finally remembered where they truly live. Welcome home. The journey continues. The infinite beginning is now.